Are you tired of feeling like a forgotten child? For 6 long, painful years, Nikon shooters have been left out in the cold. You have been staring at your Z7 Mark II, watching the calendar flip, and feeling the sting of rejection. While Sony and Canon fans have been feasting on insane AI autofocus and lightning-fast stacked sensors, Nikon gave you nothing but crumbs. They gave you minor firmware updates while the competition stole the spotlight. The silence from Nikon headquarters has been absolutely deafening. But right now, the crickets have finally stopped chirping. The leaks have officially turned into a massive, unstoppable flood. The Nikon Z7 Mark III is real. It finally has a rumored price tag, and the specs are designed to throw a heavy, devastating punch straight at the competition. But we have to ask the ultimate question. Is it a little too late? The competition hasn't just been standing in the ring with Nikon. Sony and Canon have been winning by a brutal technical knockout for 2 years straight. Today, we are breaking down every single leak, every internal whisper, and every supply chain secret to see if Nikon is truly back in the game. Are they making a legendary comeback? Or are they just arriving at a party that ended at midnight? Let's be real for a second, because the timeline here is honestly painful. If you are a Nikon shooter, you have earned the exact right to be a little salty. The original Z7 dropped way back in 2018. It was a bold start for their full-frame mirrorless journey, but it was plagued by the infamous single-card slot drama. The Z7 Mark II followed in 2020, which fixed the storage issue, but it kept the exact same slow internal soul. Since then, it has been total radio silence for this specific lineup. For 6 long years, Nikon has been completely hyper-focused on the Z8 and the Z9. We get it because those are incredible machines. They are the sports and cinema giants that put Nikon back on the map and proved they could build elite mirrorless tech. But in that process, Nikon seemingly forgot about the exact people who built their reputation in the first place. They forgot the landscape photographers, the studio artists, and the portrait pros who demand ultra-high resolution without needing a massive, bulky sports body. While Nikon was busy perfecting the Z9, Sony released the powerful A7R Mark V and the groundbreaking A7R Mark VI. Canon dropped the R5 and the stunning R5 Mark II. Even Fujifilm managed to update their medium format monsters twice. Nikon hasn't just been late. They have been dangerously late. But according to the latest supply chain whispers, the painful wait ends in the autumn of 2026. Let's talk about the money, because this is where the Nikon value myth either lives or dies. The rumored price for the Z7 Mark III is currently sitting right between $3,000 and $3,500. For context, the Sony A7R Mark VI is chilling at $3,500 and the Canon R5 Mark II demands a steep $3,900. If Nikon can actually hit that sweet spot of $3,299, they become the value king overnight. They absolutely need to undercut Sony by at least $200 to convince people to stay in their ecosystem. In a world where inflation has turned mid-range cameras into crazy luxury items, that small price gap is the only thing that will stop a loyal Nikon user from glancing at a Sony catalog. If they push past $3,500, they aren't just in trouble, they will become completely invisible. People do not wait 6 long years just to pay a premium for hardware that feels like a catch-up project. Nikon needs to prove to the world that brand loyalty has a financial reward. They need to show that waiting was a smart business decision for working professionals. Now, let's get right into the guts of this thing, because the leaked specs are where the real story hides. We are looking at a brand new 61-megapixel stacked BSI sensor. Stacked is the absolute magic word here. If you don't know why that matters, listen very closely. The old Z7 sensors were beautiful for stationary subjects, but they were incredibly slow. They had terrible rolling shutter issues that made the electronic shutter almost useless for anything moving faster than a turtle. If you tried to pan across a scene, buildings would bend like jelly. A stacked sensor changes the entire math of the camera. It means lightning-fast readout speeds, zero distortion in your electronic shutter, and a massive boost to autofocus calculations per second. On top of that, you are looking at 8,000 video at 60p and 4,000 video at a smooth 120p. This is the exact hybrid powerhouse Nikon should have released 3 years ago. It finally matches the Sony and Canon benchmarks, giving landscape and wildlife pros the slow motion tools they have been begging for under the hood. The Z7 Mark III is rumored to jump straight to the Expeed 8 processor. This is a massive curveball because the flagship Z9 is still running on the older Expeed 7 architecture. Jumping a full generation ahead means the Z7 Mark III will have way more processing headroom than the most expensive camera Nikon sells today. This new digital brain brings advanced AI-powered autofocus to the table. We are talking about real-time tracking for birds, cars, planes, and even insects that actually stays locked on regardless of the lighting conditions. It is also highly expected to handle in-camera AI noise reduction. Imagine shooting at a high ISO of 6400 in a dark venue and getting a file that looks like it was shot at ISO 400. The processor cleans it up beautifully before the raw data even hits your memory card. The body itself is expected to look and feel like a mini Z8. You get that deep professional grip, the illuminated buttons, and all the tactile controls you love, but in a much lighter frame. For the dedicated landscape shooters who hike 10 miles into the wilderness for one perfect sunset shot, every single gram saved is an absolute blessing. But here is the cold, hard truth that most fanboy channels will never tell you. Specs on a piece of paper do not mean a single thing if the real-world execution fails. Nikon has 3 massive hurdles to clear with this launch. First is the autofocus reliability. Sony is still the undisputed king of sticky autofocus. When a Sony camera locks onto an eye, it acts like it is permanently glued there through trees, fences, and bad lighting. Canon is a very close second place with their dual-pixel tech. Nikon is currently in a respectable third place with the Z8 and Z9, but respectable does not win gold medals in a fierce market. If the Z7 Mark III still hunts for focus in low light or loses a subject behind a single blade of grass, it is an instant deal-breaker for wildlife and event pros. The second problem is the lens ecosystem and the physical weight of the system. Nikon's S-line lenses are optical masterpieces, and they are arguably the best glass in the world, but they are heavy and they are wildly expensive. When a Sony 50mm f1.2 is hundreds of grams lighter than the Nikon equivalent, professional wedding photographers notice the difference by the end of a long 12-hour day. Your wrists feel that weight. Plus, Nikon is still very protective of their electronic lens mount. While Sony users enjoy a giant buffet of affordable third-party lenses from Sigma and Tamron, Nikon users are often forced to pay the heavy first-party tax. The third problem is pure timing. By the time this camera actually hits the store shelves in late 2026, the Sony A7 or Mark VI will have already been on the market for over a year. Sony can easily slash their price by $300 on Black Friday, and suddenly Nikon's entire value argument completely evaporates into thin air. Nikon is playing defense in a game where they used to set the rules. Right now, they're clearing out old Z7 Mark II stock with massive discounts across global retailers. This is the clearest sign that the successor is right around the corner. They need to completely flush the warehouses before they can announce the new king. It is a smart business move, but it is a highly frustrating one for the loyal fans who have been holding on to their 2020 gear while the rest of the photography world moved fast into the future. Think about what this means for a working studio photographer. If you are shooting fashion or high-end commercials, your clients expect instant results. They want sharpness, but they also want speed. The Z7 Mark II forced you to slow down. It made you wait for the buffer to clear. It made you double-check your focus accuracy on every single frame. If the Z7 Mark III fixes this with its stacked sensor, it changes the entire workflow. You can shoot high-speed bursts of an active model without missing a single expression. You can crop into a 61-megapixel file and print a massive billboard without losing a single detail. Wildlife photographers can track a bird diving into water without fear of rolling shutter artifacts tearing the wings apart. This camera has the potential to bridge the gap between extreme resolution and extreme speed. It attempts to be the ultimate weapon for creators who refuse to compromise. So, what is my honest opinion on this camera? The Nikon Z7 Mark III looks like a true masterpiece of engineering that is sadly arriving a day late and $1 short. If you are already deep in the Nikon ecosystem, if your gear closet is completely full of premium Z-mount glass, and you absolutely love the way a Nikon body feels in your hand, this is the exact upgrade you have been dreaming about. It is the perfect tool for ultra-high-resolution stills, massive gallery prints, and aggressive cropping. It completely fixes every single complaint we ever had about the Z7 Mark II. It gives you the flagship power of the Expeed 8 processor and a high-speed stacked sensor in a body that won't break your back on a long hike. It rewards your patience and justifies your brand loyalty by giving you an elite tool for a lower P.